It's time to learn about cloth face coverings. As a result of the coronavirus pandemic, the CDC has recommended that we wear cloth face coverings in public settings, especially where social distancing may be hard to maintain in places such as the grocery store or pharmacy. The CDC suggests that wearing a cloth face covering may help slow the spread of the coronavirus. But we need to understand that wearing a cloth face covering does not take the place of social distancing or frequent hand washing. We still need to be vigilant about those practices. We can make these cloth face coverings at home using some items we may already have. The CDC has provided directions to easily make a cloth face covering using either a bandana or a t-shirt, and we can make these without even sewing. Additionally, they have a pattern available to make a sewn cloth face covering. This video is part of a series to demonstrate how to make those cloth face coverings. Please note that these cloth face coverings are not surgical masks or N95 respirators. Those should be saved for healthcare workers and other first responders. Regardless of which style of cloth face covering you choose to make or wear, the CDC wants to make sure that it fits snugly but comfortably across the sides of your face. It fastens with either ties or loops behind your ears. It includes multiple layers of fabric but does not restrict your breathing. And it can be machine washed and dried without being damaged or changing its shape. Your cloth face covering should be routinely washed depending on how often you wear it. The CDC indicates that regular machine washing and drying should be fine. And remember, always wash your hands before you put on your face covering and after you remove your face covering. This demonstration assumes the viewer has basic sewing knowledge and sewing machine knowledge. Here are the supplies we'll need to sew the CDC recommended cloth face covering. We'll have 2 pieces of fabric, 10 inches wide and 6 inches long, some scissors and elastics or rubber bands or ties. Here I've taken a piece of thick elastic and cut it in half because I was out of thin elastic. The instructions recommend cutting the elastic 6 inches long. However, I would cut it a little bit longer, more like 10 inches, to give you a little bit of wiggle room. Your fabric should be washed and dried before you cut your rectangles and before you sew. The rectangle on the top was cut from a larger piece of fabric that was washed first. The rectangle on the bottom was cut first and then washed. You can see the edges are frayed. We'll use this larger piece of fabric to learn about fabric orientation. On the left-hand side of this fabric sample is a finished edge called the selvage. In a woven fabric like this, yarns running up and down in the lengthwise direction that are parallel to the selvage are called the warp yarns. The yarns running side to side in the crosswise direction are called the fill yarns. Ideally, our rectangles will be cut in such a way that the 6-inch side is in the lengthwise direction and the 10-inch side is in the crosswise direction. For this project, it's a good idea to come in about 1 inch from the selvage before you cut your fabric. And here you can see the orientation of the 2 10 by 6 inch fabric rectangles. Our cloth face covering is made with 2 layers of fabric. Once they're sewn together, we need to be able to differentiate which layer will be the outer layer and which layer will go against our face. So I'm turning one of these pieces of fabric over so I'll be able to tell the difference. Next, we'll sew the 2 layers of fabric together, so I'll line them up here so I'll be able to tell which side of my face covering will be on the outside and which side will go against my face. We'll join the 2 pieces of fabric by sewing along the top edge and the bottom edge of the face covering. To do this, we'll fold over the edges to make a 1/4 inch hem. Here I've joined the 2 layers of fabric together. I've got the outer side and the side that will go against my face, and I've made a 1/4 inch seam or hem and I've pinned it. So I'll sew that with my machine. I'll use a straight stitch. set to about 12 stitches per inch, or a stitch length between 2.0 to 2.5 millimeters. We'll complete this seam, and now you can see the outside of the cloth face covering and the inside, which will go against my face. Next, we'll join the two pieces of fabric along the bottom edge. So I'll fold both pieces of fabric over together to create the 1/4 inch hem. This bottom hem will be stitched in the same way as the top hem. Now the layers of fabric are joined together at the top and bottom. The next step will be to fold over both layers of fabric along each side of the face covering to create a channel for the elastic to go through. I'll pin the fabric to make a 1/2 inch hem and then sew it to make the opening as wide as possible to accommodate the elastic. Repeat this process on the other side. Next, we'll want to insert the elastic through each side of the face covering. An easy way to do this is pin a safety pin to the end of the elastic and use that as a guide to push your elastic through the opening. Insert the second piece of elastic on the other side. Tie the ends of the elastic to create a loop to go over your ears. Give the elastic a gentle stretch to make sure it has good recovery, and then knot the two ends together. Once the knot is secure, gently pull on the elastic so that the knot is tucked inside the hem. Gather the sides of the cloth face covering on the elastic and adjust it so the cloth face covering fits your face. Then securely stitch the elastic in place to keep it from slipping. We'll repeat this on the other side and tack the elastic into place. Now that our cloth face covering is complete, it's worth noting that this pattern is a very simple pattern from the CDC. The fabric edges are raw and unfinished. Therefore, with repeated washings and wearings, the edges may continue to fray. Modifications can be made to the pattern to make it more durable and potentially improve the fit. Alright, so let's see how this fits. I'll place the covering over my nose and mouth and secure the elastic loops around my ears. I'll adjust a little bit for comfort while being careful not to touch my eyes. The fabric covers from the bridge of my nose to down below my chin and across the sides of my face, providing complete coverage. We have successfully sewn the cloth face covering recommended by the CDC. When you remove your face covering, be careful not to touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. Store your face covering away from other objects or wash it immediately. And when you're all done, wash your hands.